I'm Mark.
I'm Casey.
And I'm Patrick.
And today we're going to talk a little bit about when will the EVs become mainstream? But first, roll that title.
You're watching the Tesla Life Express.
Yeah, so today we're going to talk a little bit about when EVs will become mainstream. It's a bit of a blast from the past. Patrick, of course, has got this site called, of course, carswithcords.net that anyone can view. Just published recently is an article that he kind of looks at what happened in the past, what was predicted, and what's happened to present. With that, Patrick, take it away.
Yeah, so I've been in the EV game for a long time. I got my first EV in 2007. And it was really cool when we started seeing the announcement about the Volt and the Leaf and then the Tesla Roadster, not the Roadster, but the Model S. And so that there was this, oh man, it's happening. EVs are going to take off, and all EVs in a couple of years are going to be, all vehicles will be EVs in a couple of years. And then that was the enthusiast side of things. And then there was the other side of things saying EVs are just a fad. It's a niche. It's never going to take off. And so I tried to look at the middle road and say, okay, what is a realistic timeline for EV adoption? You can look at past adoptions of even just like electricity or radios or televisions and get an idea of how technology disseminates. And it's usually an S-coid, a sigmoid curve, an S-curve. And so it starts out with the enthusiasts. They work through a bunch of the kinks. They make it possible to be more user-friendly and for infrastructure to be deployed and other things. And then it can go to early majority, late majority, and finally the laggards. And so I drew a chart starting in 2010 and anticipating when I thought it would actually cross over. So Mark's showing that now. So this was a prediction that I made in 2014. And that was before there was the legislation that says in a lot of regions that they have to be all electric by 2035 or whatever the current legislation is where you live. And so I thought this was a realistic curve of what a future could possibly look like. And we love to do predictions here on the show. We do them every year for Tesla's volume. And so I was curious to look back at this and see how close to reality it had come. And so if you scroll down some more there, you'll see that's a zoom in. The green line was the estimate, and the blue line is U.S. actual sales. So it tracked pretty close until 2020. And then more recently, I've been pessimistic, which is awesome. You would love to see earlier accelerated adoption. That's great. Although one of the things that I'm interested in is how is it going to play out for this year? Because 2024, there have been macro pressures on vehicle sales in general. This is a percentage. So if the entire market is suppressed, EVs can still have a growth year percentage-wise. But interest rates particularly is the one I'm referring to, but there are other pressures as well. So that could flatten the curve out and get a little closer to the green, although that my goal is not to be right. My goal is for everything to be electric. Electrify all the things, right, Casey?
Boom.
Yeah, let's move to our future free from fossil fuels, and sooner is better.
Yeah. So we keep hearing all these doom and gloom from the fossil apologists or lackeys or wolves in sheep's clothing, as the case may be, for whoever's telling you that EVs aren't selling. But as Patrick was saying, as a percentage, the EVs are still continuing to rise around the world. So it may not be where we want it to be in sheer numbers and volume. It will be there by percentage this year. So far, something still could change. It's June now. Something could still change it for the rest of the year. But so far, it's on track to just continue going up.
Yeah, and the assumption here is by 2025 you have an affordable mass market EV, and that actually could work out to be the case because there are vehicles announced that are certainly more affordable than what we have now, and that will allow EVs to move to the next stage of adoption and to
Yeah,
accelerate that curve from there on. Because once you see a couple EVs in your neighborhood and you can go for test drives when your friend has one or whatever, it's not just those few people on the coast that have them. It actually becomes more mainstream.
exactly. I was looking at, I didn't read the article, but I saw as I was scrolling through whatever I was looking at, the, I believe it was the Seal, the BYD Seal.
Hmm.
Some guy said that it doesn't look or feel like a $12,000 car or $17,000 car. It felt better, like he wasn't being punished. And they're not the only ones. I mean, you look at some of the GMs
Hmm.
available today. If you look at some of the used Teslas you can get, if you get them through a dealer, you can get them with the tax credit. And we're
Hmm.
looking at some incredibly inexpensive vehicles. I saw a Bolt that would have been something like 13 or 12 after the tax credit, assuming you didn't have anything local like Colorado to bring it down even further. And it was a year old with like 30,000 miles on it. It was like a rental car, but still, that's incredible.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
the numbers that Patrick is talking about here, this of course is all just new
New
cars.
cars, yeah.
And we've got, of course, the second wave of EV adoption was of course used vehicles,
Hmm.
and that's not even reflected in these charts. But again, that's another wave that's pushing adoption even faster because you've got cars that are now reduced in price by 50%, or in some cases more.
Yeah.
That allows people to get in at the lower scale, and of course, with EVs having less movable parts, less maintenance required. A used car that's an EV is something that can really help somebody out in the used car market with less maintenance.
Yeah. Yeah, this one outside
Absolutely.
here is 6 years old and it still feels like new.
Yep.
The door seals don't look like it though.
Yeah, they're not perfectly maintenance free.
Yeah,
One of the
that's a
points you
Model
made
X
there,
problem.
Casey, that I think is worth reiterating is that even affordable EVs have a lot of luxury features,
Yeah.
in that they can be very responsive, quick off the line because of the instant torque that electric motors provide. They can be quiet. I mean, you normally pay a lot of extra luxury level prices for sound dampening and other things in
Yeah.
luxury vehicles, where EVs are just naturally don't have that. Big rumbling engine. So you get a lot of you can a more affordable car can feel more luxurious when it's an EV for sure.
That's right. And it's a lot easier to dampen the three frequencies that your car will make than
Hmm.
if you have a reciprocating multi-tonal. It just makes everybody's lives just so much more nice. And then you've got all these various like 10-minute batteries that they keep showing off.
Hmm.
I'm not saying to count on these things, but I'm saying that when they do hit and become just viable like in a mass, that's going to be another acceleration right there for all those people who want to maintain the fossil paradigm where I have to go to a place and sit there for 10 minutes to do the thing. Okay, you can go hold the electric hose for 10 minutes and and fill up and you'll be fine. Or you can plug in at night, let it do it while you sleep. But that will actually have an even greater impact than just the folks who can't wrap their heads around it. When you've got the multi-family dwellings, the street parkers, the other folks that legislation and landlords that actually are trying to get fresh customers, uh,
Hmm.
progressive type landlords basically. Um, Other than them, you'll then be able to get those people who were shut out by not having a government that could get it done for them, or a landlord who actually give a crap about making sure that you could charge.
Right.
Just to draw your attention to the third chart here, Patrick, this graphic is interesting. That it's showing both the U.S. actual and China actual compared to estimated back in 2014.
Right. Yes. So I did want to make a point that it's not just about the U.S. The atmosphere doesn't care what country your car's in. It's one planet, one air. So that it's actually pretty sad how the U.S. is pulling down the global average. We are not leaders in this respect. China certainly is, and I didn't put Norway on here.
I was about to say you put Norway on there; it's off the charts.
Yeah, exactly.
Norway is what, like 89 point something?
Right. Yes.
And the next year it's a requirement.
Right. So the cool thing about
that alone right there, like you said, you wrote this before any of the requirements were in place. Norway moved their requirement up 10 years after they made one, after Patrick wrote the article. So it went from 2035 to 2025.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So we should definitely see some good improvements. The cool thing is with one of the things I was trying to show here is that when with these adoption curves, there's something called the chasm, and crossing the chasm is a big deal. When you have you can throw out a new technology, and there's going to be some people that just get it and love it. And if that's 2 or 3 or 4%, and then your product would just stay a niche product. You instead have to continue to grow your market share until you get to at least 18 to 20%, because that's when you can move from early adopters into mass market. Once you get to that 18 to 20%, you've crossed the chasm, and it depends specifically. That number varies depending on the actual market, but once you've gotten to that level, you can go from 20% to 80%. And so this shows that we are crossing the chasm. EVs are getting to a point where the infrastructure is in place, and it's a growing market. It's going to be embraced by more and more people as things go forward, because there was one of the we all used to be on what drives us, and hybrids got to this point where they did not cross the chasm. They remained a niche product. And as much as Tony Schaefer didn't want that to be true, it kind of got stuck there, where that is not what's happening with EVs. EVs are going to cross the chasm and going to become mainstream. And that's pretty cool news.
Yeah. I'm curious. One I didn't mention. I'm curious what their numbers are going to look like, and I guess I'm going to rely on you to look it up at some point, Patrick. I'd wait till the end of the year just because. The first country to ban gas cars outright, like they hit their limit, they hit their number, Ethiopia. So you can't buy a new fossil car in Ethiopia. It has to be a plug-in.
Awesome.
Yeah. But I don't know what their market looks like, so that's what I'm saying. Don't go look it up now. But I'd like to see. When you do one of another write-up, so you can incorporate them.
But it is interesting that Patrick, you had thought about this back in 2014, so 10 years ago, and put these numbers to paper. And it's very interesting to see how the chart it closely resembles. You're right. You were a little bit pessimistic, but a lot of people would probably have said back 10 years ago you were being optimistic.
They would,
even though at this point it shows you being a little bit pessimistic, because we've beaten those numbers earlier than was what was expected back 10 years ago. But that's
Model S was still on a waiting list back then, wasn't it?
That's right. Yeah. So that's an interesting flashback in time as to what it was projected to be and what it actually has turned out to be. And a lot of us probably wouldn't have seen the increase dramatically that some of those other countries like Norway, like China, have done, and with the U.S. and North America kind of lagging behind. That we're not moving with it. Obviously, there's other headwinds that make that story come to light. There's many things like the oil industry and other things that have slowed this down, but it's good to see that it is starting to catch on. And in that last graphic, showing that the world EV adoption rate overall is about 16-17%. So it's getting there. That well, even though China's 40% now, the world is getting close to that 20% mark that you talked about, crossing the chasm. And that's exactly where it appears we are heading and should reach within the next 1 or 2 years.
Awesome.
And then there'll be no turning back.
No turning back.
Unstoppable.
Right. Exactly. and that's going to be fun to see as more and more countries get crossing that line, and the momentum is just not going to be stopped. And so many of us 10 years ago were thinking, I don't know if we'll ever get there, because we had, as mentioned, we had seen the hybrids kind of stall and not go much further. So we were certainly hoping that this BEV movement would certainly go beyond. And it appears that it's there now, and it's continuing to move.
Exactly.
Well, with that, I think we will wrap tonight's show. Casey, any shout outs from you and what's happening on Sunday?
Yeah, so on Sunday we've got Let's Chat with Casey and Friends on youtube.com/Casey Green, and we're going to discuss these kind of topics as well as the HV Nomads project. And then on Monday, come back here for the Tesla Life Express, and then on Wednesday we'll catch you on the Tesla Life Live. So that's going to be a blast.
Very good, very good. Patrick, any shout outs from you?
Yes, as always, I'm with the Oregon Electric Vehicle Association. You can find us at oeva.org. Thanks for checking out carswithcords.net, where I blog about my future free from fossil fuels.
10 years. Time spent. Went back in time, came up to 10 years. Pretty close. I have to say, I'm impressed. I'm impressed with your crystal balling, being able to see where we're going to be.
Yep, and I did put my money where my mouth was. So I did make some investments at that time too. Some of them worked out, some of them didn't. Like A123 batteries. Didn't go there.
I had a chance to charge my Volt at the factory. And yeah.
Well, with that, thanks everyone for joining us, and we'll be back again shortly to talk again. Good night.
All right. See you soon.